So good morning. I wasn't able to do a live recording yesterday, live voiceover, so I'm just going to do it now. As you can see, I'm just marking up an imbalanced price range from the morning session, just marking up the charts ahead of the 9:30 open. There's the first, well, not ahead, there's the first value presented first value gap, and as you can see, we've seen a slight rejection. I say a small rejection from there at this point. Some people like to use that as their entry, but my point of interest was that imbalanced price range further down, so I was waiting till 9:45 to see if we would reach there. As you can see, right now we retrace again into that first presented fair value gap and reject it once more. To me that's kind of a good sign, but as I say to you, there's an opportunity to have a look at that. It's always important also to look at ES, see what's happening there, and as you can see, I've just pulled it up on the chart to see what's going on. I do also flip between that and the 15-second chart to see what's happening there, 15 and 5 second to see if we have any market structure shifts, and as you can see, we're still in that first presented fair value gap as a whole, but I'm waiting till 9:45 to really make a full assessment as to what I'm going to do next for that macro. And as you can see, we have some level of consolidation and just marking up the upper part of that fair value gap in the 15-second, which hasn't been touched into yet, so we're just waiting until 9:45. Obviously I was at work, people coming in and out of the office, so I wasn't really, as I say, able to do any of the voiceover as such. But as you can see, you see this rejection on the 1 minute time frame, and price continues to drop down until around 9:45. And as I say, that's what I mean. There's an opportunity to get in at that point and take it down, but obviously as I was bullish on the day, I wanted to I was looking for a bullish entry as such. But as you see, that was my point of interest down there. We see there's another, we've taken the low and we've got looking for a retracement higher. Unfortunately, at this point I did have to step away, so I missed my opportune entry, which would have been then if you drop down into the 15-second chart, you would see a market structure shift right there. That's what I'm doing there now, and I was hoping, I was expecting or waiting for the retracement back, but on the 1 minute chart, but we didn't necessarily get it, so that's why I jumped in there in case it didn't come out. But this is what I mean, this was my original idea. If I didn't get the entry that I was looking for, and then when we returned to this first presented fair value gap, I was a little bit concerned. I was anticipating another retracement back, but that didn't quite happen after 10 o'clock. And as you can see, I kind of was umming and ahhing as to what to do. This whole stop loss thing is another thing that I need to kind of sharpen up on, because that's one of my fears, is obviously realizing my losses, right? So as you can see, I haven't even put the stop loss on, but I am monitoring things at the moment, and price consolidates for a little while before it moves forward. And as you'll see shortly, I actually step out of the trade in a little profit, but I just don't hang on to it, because I was thinking, well, I could get a better entry in that fair value gap that I was looking at it retracing into at 10 o'clock. Here I'm measuring the range of that 30-minute cycle, and as you can see at 10 o'clock it opens up. It's at the 50% mark. It's, you know, it's kind of stuck in between that range with the 25% or the upper quadrant as such, and that's why I was like, oh, actually, is this the resistance? Are we not going to go ahead? But I believe that this is one thing I did hear in one of the ICT videos, was that consolidation. This is from the 2016 model, I believe. You don't reverse after consolidation, you consolidate and continue. Consolidation helps to build up liquidity before it continues, but you don't necessarily reverse. You might take some sell side, in this case, some sell side liquidity maybe before it moves up, but it shouldn't reverse, was part of my thought process. But anyhow, as here I'm looking at the higher time frames just to see what was going on, and also always monitoring what's happening with ES. But as you can see, I jumped out of that trade, and now I was looking for, you know, an opportunity to re-enter as such, because I was still, the signs were still saying that we're gonna continue up. So there you can see I re-entered as we broke that 25% of that price range, and then I held on to that all the way. Put on my stop loss, very wide stop loss, and I put my TP at that price cycle's high. As you can see, I jumped in again here, looking at the range of that price cycle, and you can see actually where the 25% mark is. Just keep an eye on that, because I do use that a little bit later on, as the price continues to move through. You know, I came to a bit of a realization yesterday that, you know, this whole trading really opens up who you are as a person, because what I have realized is that I struggle to follow instructions. I'm just noting some SMT at the lower part, so that's a good sign that we're going in the right direction. And as you can see, I was wondering, is this an open high? And then we dropped down. I believe that first presented fair value gap becomes an inverted fair value gap. As we'll see, it retests it and then continues up higher. So whilst this is speeded up, I mean, you know, it's just a patience game of waiting to see what happens as a whole. But as I say, you know, you have to kind of really follow your rules. It's a bit like baking a cake. I baked a cake yesterday evening. It was flat. I realised that I never follow instructions. I always chuck in a little bit extra and add a little bit of sauce and, you know, whatever it is. But with baking, you have to be precise. You have to make sure your measurements are correct and you do things in the right order and at the right temperatures. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Yeah, you might get some degree of a cake, but it may not be the full cake. And so really, moving forward, I have to think about how I kind of follow the recipe to the T. So here I see there's a fair value gap, so I'm anticipating that this might be a point of interest where we could either take partials on the way up or even close the trade altogether if this is the ultimate high as such. So Yeah, I mean, this is the thing about trading, is really looking at who you are as a person. And I know that I struggle to follow things through to the end. That's on everything. I might do something for 1 week and then stop. And, as I say, you always kind of chuck a little bit of something in. But as I say, if you really want to be good at this, you have got to follow it to a T and do exactly what is required and follow the protocol to the T. Because otherwise things will throw you off. If you think about all of the different ideas that you have, whether it's fair value gaps, all the PD arrays, all the different times, if all the, support and resistance, all the different things that you have in your arsenal, think of them as like ingredients in your cake. But what cake are you baking today? And if you're baking a chocolate cake, then just stick to the ingredients that you need for the chocolate cake. Don't start chucking in currants and throwing in ginger or throwing in all sorts of other things. So here I can see that there's another fair value gap. So actually I reduce my take profit to that fair value gap. Why? Because I was just like, well, actually, am I anticipating we're going to go past the top? I was looking at the time frame. I figured it, seeing as we'd already made the all-time high, we may not be ready to go back up there yet. Also, I can see some signs of SMT at the top. So we've made some higher highs on NQ and equal highs on ES. So we've got some consolidation that is taking place at this point. So that's really what I was monitoring. And you'll start to see some SMT, as I say, on the top. And also at the bottom. So you see we have this drop down. I move my stop loss slightly. There we have the SMT at the top. So it's a bit of a warning sign for me. I've got to think about it. So that's why I was just like, that might drop. But also, if you notice, there is SMT at the bottom in that 30-minute cycle too. So that's why you kind of have to look at everything. You see, there we have some SMT, but that's where I was cautious and I reduced my TP. To see where price is going. I must admit, I find that doing this is really quite useful for me to watch exactly what happens and my thought processes through here, and to remain focused. So it's not necessarily about becoming a YouTuber. I don't know how these guys do it. Produce videos, manage the charts, so much to think about. I just can't do it. I've got too much going on in my head as it is. But as we, climb, it's a really nice market maker model. Straight up to that yellow line. I say straight up. It's always back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But we're almost there, and this is where you just got to have patience until you get to the point where you're comfortable. As I say, it was a really busy day for me yesterday at work, so I was surprised that I was even able to manage this, being in back-to-back meetings, and people coming in and out of the office. But I am very pleased that I was able to do this, and you will see that there was a huge move afterwards, which I missed, from 1 o'clock, which was a beautiful setup once more. But I wasn't even in the charts, I wasn't even looking, the laptop was closed. I got what I needed to get for the day, and that's it. I was satisfied. The cake was baked. I didn't need to go trying to bake another cake and using a different set of ingredients or what have you. But I think that's going to be my analogy. I should have called myself the trade baker, the baker, instead of the tape reader, the tape baker, or something like that. Because essentially, that's what I'm going to have to do moving forward. Make sure I stick to the ingredients and don't chuck in extra bits of flavour into my cake, and follow the ingredients with precision. So I believe at this point I actually closed it, because we don't quite touch it. I saw that big candle and I was just like, yeah, that's enough. Close it manually, and there we have it. As you'll see that price continue to retrace to the fair value gap, the first one that I was had marked up. You see a massive drop, quick, but I didn't jump in again. I just left it there, and that was it. So overall, it was a really good day, and as you can see, price dropped down to that fair value gap. And overall, it was a major down day, and price retraced all the way through that first imbalanced price range that I had noted, through that daily fair value gap into this 1 hour BISI where we are currently. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens today. So hopefully you enjoyed that. If so, put a comment.